There we are. I see the live sign.
Are we? It just says here that we're setting up the meeting. We're on early, everybody, just because you know how it is when Jane and I get on this thing. Usually I mess up, and I want to give myself plenty of time. Now I'm going to go back to Zoom here.
I'm here.
Yay! Jane, that was the smoothest ever.
Yeah, very good. Very well done. We're getting good at this. We are pros.
Well, all it takes is doing this about 35 times and you finally get the idea, right?
Exactly.
So everybody, 2 minutes early. It's me, Susan Elizabeth Phillips, and I'm here with one of, can you have like, I don't want to say you're my bestie. What I want to say is you're one of my besties, but I'm not sure that works. What do you think?
Fine by me.
Okay. One of my many besties, Jayne Ann Krentz. First question. How long has it been since you've had a haircut?
I knew you were going to come back with that one. And you're just doing this because you had a haircut. You got your haircut. Mine is getting to the point where I am going to have the share look. You know, the long.
Yeah. But are you doing your color yourself?
It shows.
No, it doesn't look that much different from when you have it done. I mean,
Well, thank
is
you.
it easy or hard to do?
I'm getting better at it. The hard part is the fine work. You know, each little row. That's where I struggle, because you're working with the back of your head and you've got mirrors and it's not easy.
So once this is all over, you're going to go back to having other people do it.
As fast as I can.
Yeah. Well, I'm really impressed. I think my hair looks super cute today, yes. But there's a caveat here. So I can, because I need a haircut so badly, I can make it look good, like within about 3 or 4 hours after I've washed it. And then it just starts. And by the second day, I just have to wear my ball cap all day.
I know, we're all suffering this way. You are not.
Okay, the Camp Pendleton, I know you always like it because you had Marines in the family, the Camp Pendleton helicopters going overhead. Well, so anyway, while one of the reasons I would just, well, I would have asked her that anyway, even if we hadn't gone on early. But if you want to, yes, I'm out here in my lightweight puffer, even though I'm in Southern California, which it has really been amazing to me. Southern California is not Florida.
Is this your first time there in this time of the year?
Yes, we in the past, we've come out a little bit further into January. This time we came out at the end of November, right after Thanksgiving. So it's still pretty nice, though, I gotta say. Great. So we are celebrating the publication of the second book in your Fogg Lake series, All the Colors of the Night, which I cannot hang up because I am reading it on my Kindle right now. And kind of bring us up to speed on what's well, no, first I got to read a couple reviews first. See, I don't know. Krentz definitely draws on her mad genius. What the heck? Nobody ever said I was a mad genius. Oh, crap. Every time we get on, that darn train comes along. I'm hoping it's just the coaster and not the freight train. Anyway, Krentz draws on her mad genius for exciting plots and signature sharp sense of humor to create another sexy, suspenseful, and sublimely entertaining story. I'm okay with all of the quote except the mad genius part.
That's the part I'm putting on my tombstone. I am not going to waste that one.
No, I don't blame you. Did you, hold on one second.
Planes, the plane.
The coaster is a very famous train in the San Diego area. And we love it, we really do, but it's a little noisy when it goes by. So did you tell Frank that you were considered a mad genius?
Yes, he was not impressed.
Unimpressed, I'm not surprised.
Not impressed, no. I guess maybe everybody knew it. Maybe that was the deal.
Whatever. Anyway, I'm going to be holding that one over your head for a while. Here's another quote you got on All the Colors of the Night. That was from Book List. This is from Publishers Weekly. Krentz brings the goods. Sierra and North sizzling chemistry built into a powerful connection that makes them more than a match from their foes. I love the chemistry you've got going between them, by the way. The combination of romance, danger, mystery, and the occult is sure to sate Krentz's fans. So I might have sent you an email yesterday about the typo, right?
We had a little discussion about the word sate, S-A-T-E.
Yeah.
And an old, old school teacher over here.
Say satisfy.
thought she had spotted a typo, and I said, no, I looked it up as soon as I saw it, made sure.
And smart Alec Missy comes back and said, well, this is the way you use the word sate. And I said, whatever. Now, those reviews are right on spot for this book. So tell us, catch us up where we are with Fogg Lake. This is book 2. Kind of catch us up with the whole, where you got with the series.
Okay, this is just a trilogy. And I emphasize that because I have a long history and a very sad reputation for kind of walking away from series after 10 or 12 books and just sort of wandering off into something else. And readers have called me on this a number of times. So I'm emphasizing that this is book 2 in a trilogy, and I'm writing book 3 now, so there will be a conclusion.
Yeah.
And this is all, the plot all spins out of the fact that the United States government was so heavily involved in paranormal research in the 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s.
This is true, right?
This is all true, because we were sure the USSR, Russia, the old USSR, was doing research in the area, and they were going to get ahead of us. Both sides wanted spies who could see over the horizon. They called it remote viewing. And they were just really into the whole concept of, I mean, there's no way to know how many millions or billions of dollars were poured into paranormal research in this country. Major universities like Duke were involved. It was a big deal and taken very seriously and very clandestinely. It was super secret stuff. So how much farther do you have to go to get a plot? I mean, you open the closet door and it just comes tumbling out when you're going into it.
That was just a gift from the gods for you.
Just fell right into it. And it fits my vibe because I love to do romantic suspense with a psychic vibe. So it was like perfect. So this is basically the trilogy, the Fogg Lake Trilogy, is basically following the descendants of a small town that was accidentally fogged with paranormal radiation back in 1960 or so. And the descendants, it did some DNA changes. So they've all got some psychic talent now. And I like to work with the psychic stuff because as opposed to supernatural, to be clear, if you don't know my writing, I do not do vampires, werewolves, witches. I can read them, but I don't write them. It doesn't go well with my core story. But the psychic thing works because I think most people can see it as just one step beyond intuition. Everybody's got a sense of intuition, and all the psychic vibe asks is that you go one step into that woo-woo land, and that's what I like to work with. That's the perfect world for me. So, there you have it.
So the first book of the trilogy was The Vanishing, right?
Yes.
And which couple did that center on?
That's a good point. Each book has a separate couple. I take a new love story in each story, but you're going to see people from the other books coming and going. The community is there to work with, and so you'll see the other couple appear and other characters appear. But each couple has a story, and the core of the stories are the two of the women who grew up in this small town, had developed psychic talents, and decided to, when they grew up, decided to form a psychic detective agency. And so the story kind of spins out of the psychic detective agency, or psychic investigation agency that they're running. Yeah, I'm excited.
I mean, it's really a cool story. One of the things that I noticed right away, and I was telling Jane, I was bogged down in a book that I had to finish, so I did not get to start this book until yesterday. So I'm just kind of at the beginning, so no spoilers for me. But I, one of the things I love about your books is chapter one, you start every book at a high point of action, and you really see it in the book. So I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. Tell us what's going on in chapter one, right from the very first couple paragraphs.
I'll read it.
You.
first first couple of lines. Why kill me? Sierra Rains said. I'm just the go-between. I'm sorry, Miss Rains, Parker Keegan said. He aimed the pistol at her. I'm afraid this is the end of our relationship. Well, just another crazy, obsessive, paranoid collector, Sierra thought. Should have seen this coming.
Read a little more. Can you just read a little more? I like that beginning.
Well, I should emphasize that she's in the business of, she is a go-between. She works in the underground market of paranormal artifacts, which are very dangerous artifacts. They're also very, they can be scary and dangerous. And the people who collect them are weird. So she deals with weird collectors all the time. Keegan was proving to be more of a problem than the majority of her clients, however. There was the gun, for one thing. Thankfully, very few of the collectors and dealers she did business with had gone so far as to pull out a pistol. One or two had produced large knives, and when there was the scary dude who had tried to lock her up in the trunk of the car, this was a little different. I could keep going, but
I think that is, I mean, it's just such a great beginning point for us to get a feeling for what the book's going to be about, and also get a feeling about Sierra, because she's a pretty cool cucumber, but she also is sort of living under this whole shame umbrella of being falsely accused of something that she didn't do.
Yeah, she tried to get a job in the normal world, quote unquote, and she worked in the antiques world, and she got set up to take the fall for some stolen antiques, and her reputation was shot to heck. So now she's working in the underworld market of the paranormal side of the antique business, where nobody asks too many questions.
And she's really trying to patch together a living. Where I am right now, I love this. So she's going to be working with North, the hero. And North, right away, this is a very suspicious man. And he is not convinced at all that she really is innocent of this. So I'm at this first scene where we're going to have this lack of trust issue, which you always like to talk about. And I'm really anxious to get back to that scene, because there's nothing I love more than that between the hero and heroine, where, you know, they're not sure of each other.
Yes, I think both of us, in a sense, construct relationships based on building trust between the two main characters. Yeah. And I think it works again and again because everyone knows there is such a risk in trust at any level of any kind. Every time you trust someone, you are taking a huge risk. And so this is something everybody lives with day in and day out. And that's why it makes good plot material and good relationship conflicts, I think.
I am really taken with your hero, North Chastain. One of the things is, so you gave your hero the first name, I mean, you stole the first name of your hero, North, from my hero in Dance Away With Me, Ian Hamilton North, the fourth, which automatically gives my hero one step up on yours. But that aside, you have given him
cool name. Yeah, I mean, it was a cool name. Why? And it's not like I'm doing any better finding my own names, because I've used up every name I know or like.
Wait a minute on that. I want to talk about that in a minute too. But first, the thing about North that is really intriguing is you've given him a huge disability. So there's a lot at stake for him. And I think you just have created a lot of suspense right going in. But on the issue of names, you use the weirdest darn names in every book you write. Where do you get them?
Desperation. I started out with classic names. You know, yeah. I ran through all the Gabriels and the Jareds and the, you know, the kind of the classic hero names.
Well, the
early on.
heroines' names too. You had Hortenses and all, all of these old-fashioned names that nobody would use anymore, right?
Yes, I learned something interesting about that because you can go to the Social Security website and print out names from the
Right.
decades, right? So you try to pick out names from a decade that works with your character, or to get just ideas. But one of the interesting things I found out is that if the names are coming from your grandfather's or your father's generation, they sound old-fashioned. Go back to great grandfather, and they sound pretty cool. It was
Interesting. You're right. You're right. And your minor characters and your villains, they all have really, really cool names. And I think naming characters is an art because, I always used to joke about the fact that, you know, the standard romance hero's name was Sperm Coltrane. Uh, and you want to avoid names like that are just like so over the top. But you also need the right kind of name. You probably no offense to all the Homers out there, but you're probably not going to name your hero Homer. Did you ever name a hero Homer? Knowing you
no,
probably have. No.
no, because that falls into the category of old fogey names. It's just
Right.
it's yeah, it's that grandfather name, and
Yeah.
it's a real interesting subject once you get into it. And I love names because they carry so much history.
They
Which is why we're always so shocked when somebody invents a totally oddball, strange name, and saddles their kid with it for life. Because it's
Yeah.
like what it lacks is history. So you're asking the kid to live up to nothing. I mean, there's nothing there particularly. He has to invent himself, I suppose, would be the advantage. But I think the other thing about names for an author is that they have to fit the character, and that's impossible to explain, isn't it? I mean, we know that, but we know it in our gut when we hit the right name, but we don't know how to explain that. And they have to be distinct, pragmatically speaking. They have to be distinct from other characters in the story so that people are not constantly mixing them up, so that the reader is not mixing them up, because they
Right.
might look too similar on the page.
Not too many with the same letter for their first name. Have you ever changed a character's name in a book?
So often.
Yeah, I have too. In Kiss an Angel. So the hero of that book, Alex, was originally like Benjamin or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had to get rid of that. And in Dance Away with Me, Ian Hamilton North was originally Logan North. Thank you.
No kidding. Logan North.
Yeah, Logan North. And I like the name Logan. It just didn't work for him.
Yeah,
So,
I know what you mean. I do too. Um, Now that we're on it real quick before I forget, you've got a sale going on, right?
I do. I just found out about it this morning along with everybody else. First Star I See Tonight, which was the last of the Chicago Stars book, is on sale in E for $2.99.
Don't miss the deal.
Yeah. I really like that book. If somebody is in the mood, if you've been reading a depressing book and you're in the mood for something that's less depressing, just forget Jane's book. Just get that $2.99. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that.
Forget Jane's book. Too depressing.
Get Jane's book. No, I guarantee you, Jane's book will not be depressing. One of the things we know that we're going to get with the Jayne Ann Krentz book is we're going to get an intriguing plot. We're going to get real sizzle between the characters. We're going to get humor, and and we're going to get a good ending, a satisfying ending. I think those are all. That's what I want in a book.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Why we write what we write. I mean,
yeah. And I don't mind reading a book that doesn't, like with Dance Away with Me, it's not one of my rom-coms, but it's one of those books that kind of straddles the line between romance and women's fiction. But you're going to get a satisfying end. You're not going to want to kill yourself when it's over. And First Star I See Tonight, on sale now for $2.99 in E, is that's a rom-com. So you all, here's another thing. In terms of, I've never asked you this. when you do these books, like when you do especially a series, you are juggling a lot of characters.
Yeah, don't remind me.
How do you deal with all that technically? Do you have a list? Are they in your head? How are you dealing with all of them?
Every time I get into this situation, I tell myself, Jayne, you should have started keeping a record. You should have kept files. You should have hired someone to put all the books, all the facts together in the books and stuff. I think I'm going to do it every darn time. And then it's like, I don't want to take time to go do it because I'm too busy writing the story. And stuff.
Right, I know.
I'll figure it out later.
Because you have characters in this from another series, right?
There's one character from my Arcane Society series that shows
Luther. Isn't Luther one of your?
Yeah. And he's dealing in the underworld of artifacts too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and I say the same thing with the Chicago Stars books because I didn't know it was going to be a series, didn't keep track. But I tell you, my fail-proof way, instead of wasting all kinds of time when I'm trying to write, is I just go on Facebook and I ask one of you out there, some kind of a question about the book. And then I don't have to do the research and you guys do all the work.
They know that. I think what happens with us is we've moved on. They read the books over again. We don't. They keep track of the characters they love. We forget about them because they're done.
And they've been reading it much more recently than we have.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things I have forgotten in those early books. For example, Dance Away with Me is getting ready to come out in paperback at the end of the month. I've already finished When Stars Collide. I'll be talking about that soon in the next, When Stars Collide is already finished. I'm working on the book beyond that. So talking about Dance Away with Me, I have to get my head, back in that. So you're finishing up or in the middle of the next Fogg Lake book. How far are you?
I'm a little over halfway through the writing. So I'll be turning it in the 1st of March. And then you won't see it until next January. I mean, there's really quite a lag time in this.
Do you send, when you work, do you send your editor a synopsis of the book, of the series? How do you work with your editor? I think we work a little differently.
I think it really depends on the editor and your relationship with that editor, how well they know your work. And for them, part of it is just knowing you're going to finish the book, because a lot of books never get finished in our business. So having a reputation as a finisher, someone who can write and will write the whole book, goes a long way with any editor. And after that, I think they just want, mine just wants a kind of a vision of the book, an overall vision of the book. Because by now she knows the kind of characters I do, and she knows I love working with the psychic thing. So she doesn't. She gives. I guess I should say she gives me my head.
Yeah.
And then if things go terribly off in left field, she'll help me find my way back. But mostly, what I love about working with her is that she lets me.
Do your Jayne thing. She lets you do your Jayne thing.
Yeah.
And best editors are going to do that. I feel that way about my editor too. She lets me do my thing. But you plot ahead a little bit, but you're not one of these people who has long outlines. So how do you approach that with the trilogy? Do you just plunge in? Are you completely crazy?
Only thing I knew going in is that it was going to have this government experiment gone awry backdrop. And I knew that it was only going to go for 3 books. But I kept getting ideas as I wrote. The first book I would generate. My problem is I don't get my best ideas until I'm actually writing.
Me too. I know what you mean. Yep.
If I could figure this out ahead of time, believe me, I would. It would make life much less stressful. But if you get a better idea at page 45,
you got to go with it.
You got to go with it. Yeah.
Did you know the 3 couples going in, what 3 couples you were going to do?
No, I knew at some point I was going to tell the 2 women's stories, the women who founded the Psychic Detective Agency. I knew that they would bookend the series. First one, Catalina is the first heroine, and now I'm writing the 3rd heroine, which is second heroine, 3rd book, Olivia. And those are the 2 characters that appear in The Vanishing. So It was the middle. I didn't know where I was going, and that's the one you're reading.
Olivia, that also happens to be the heroine of When Stars Collide. Are you going to steal any more of my name? She asked. But
I have every one of your books on my bookshelf. What am I going to do?
you're not going to steal the hero name on that because his name is
Blank. You just went blank.
no, Thaddeus Bowman Walker Owens. I got that one. And I have no idea why he has two middle names. I mean, I know the explanation, but why it happened to me. So what fascinates you? So do you consider yourself a really intuitive person? Do you have any psychic abilities yourself?
Sadly. Usually, but once in a while, I can look back and see times when I ignored my own intuition and wished I hadn't. So it's more in the negative way. It's like, I should have seen that. I really saw that coming, and I told myself it's going to be okay. So hindsight, I'm pretty good at it.
I think that misses the point. But you and I have also talked about something that is we've never talked about in this format, but I think it's kind of interesting is there's all the self-help people, everybody always talks about listen to your intuition. But we have talked about how when you're a writer, your intuition gets mixed up with your plotting. And if I listen, it's like I've said, if I listen to my intuition, I'd never get on a plane. I'd never get in a car because I can weave out all these horrible scenarios to everything. My intuition in so many ways stinks. It's good when I'm face to face with people. I can pick up people who have good energy or positive, people who are downers, but not anything beyond that. Do you agree?
I think you're right. Our imagination kicks in. And then at what point are we just imagining things? They always say witnesses at a crime are, there's nothing lies like an eyewitness is a classic saying. And it's not because they're lying. It's because they've filled in the gaps in their memory just automatically. And their imaginations under the stress of the moment has filled in all kinds of stuff that just never happened. And I think that for us, the imagination thing is always running in overtime, especially if there's an element of drama involved, any kind of drama. That's
getting on a plane, anything like that. Yeah. So this is a question I have never asked you, but I was listening to a podcast yesterday that my son was doing. My son is this like big mucky muck in the music retail industry, and he was being interviewed, and the podcaster asked him, what do you like best about working in the music retail industry, the music products industry? And he had a kind of interesting answer. And I thought, Jayne, what do we look like best, not about writing, but about working in the publishing industry? What do we like best about that?
What I like best is being able to write anything I want within the romance genre, because it's such a huge umbrella genre. I have never had a story that I had to take outside. I've never had a story that did not fit somewhere in romance. Romantic suspense, psychological stories, women's fiction, everything kind of fits somewhere in the romance genre. And if your heroine is always at the heart of the story, it's a story that puts the heroine in at the start of the story. And if it's gay romance, then it could be, then it's the hero that's at the start of the story. But it's that very personal relationship with whoever is at the center of this relationship and their control of the relationship. And regardless of their sexual orientation or anything like that, if they're in charge of their relationship and they take charge of that relationship, they're the hero, they're the heroine, and that they're going to triumph.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they're going to triumph.
And that being in something positive. I was thinking about it. I agree with absolutely everything you said, but I was also thinking about it in the larger sense of being part of an industry that feels to me like such a positive industry. that we're involved in something that brings people pleasure or that informs them. And that feels really good to me. And the other thing is that publishing is sort of, there are a lot of really nice people in the publishing industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can think of about 4 authors I've met over the entire course of my career that I really did not like. And I've been writing for a long time. That's a very tiny number.
Yeah.
And at publishing houses, these are people who love books, whether they're working in marketing or publicity or editorial. They're people who love books. And it's just, I'm sure there's cutthroat stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but I don't see it and I don't feel it. I don't think it's the personality type that is attracted to publishing, that cutthroat personality.
I think, yeah, I have, generally speaking, very count on one hand the number of people that I wouldn't want to meet up with again. They're out there, but they're not.
And we're not naming names, but we know who you are. Let's talk a little bit before we end this about, do we have, we've been asked the question about advice for writers so many times, and we tend to always answer it the same way. Do you have like a fresh answer that I haven't heard you give 1,000 times before? Do I have a fresh answer you haven't heard me give 1,000 times before? And if you want to know what our previous answers are, I have a YouTube channel where I post all these old interviews. You can go to any of them. So give me something fresh, babe. Entertain me.
Well, I wish I could, but you know what? Some things just don't change. I would say avoid the mistake I had no choice but to make back at the start of my career, which is go ahead and find a writer's organization where you fit in. When I started out, I had I had no contact with any writer's organization. And it took me 6 years to learn how this business really works. And I think that the way to avoid that is find the right writers group, and you're going to learn more in 6 months than I did in 6 years. So that would be advice number 1. And if you have trouble locating it, contact your local public library. They will be able to tell you not only the local ones, but the national ones, national organizations that you'll find your group.
Yeah, I heard you say that before. I'm looking for something else.
What are you going with?
Well, we've talked about butt in chair, how important that is, instead of just thinking and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd also like to think about the fact that it takes guts to be a writer, that resilience of being able to take feedback, not only to take it, but to evaluate it in a logical instead of an emotional way. How many people new writers have we talked about who said, my mother and my sister and my neighbor read this book and they just loved it. Well, maybe they did and maybe they didn't. They might just be trying to, to help save your feelings. But I always think when I put a manuscript out to be critiqued, I want to not say very much at all while I'm getting a response. Just take notes. And as you're taking notes, you can put in the margin, idiot, I hate you. But sleep on those notes, because I think when you step back from getting your feelings hurt, you can look at a manuscript in a fresh way and decide what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, that's good advice. And it's hard to do. It's hard to evaluate criticism because you have to get your emotions out of the way, and because some criticism is just totally off the mark.
Well, it's not right for your work. They're criticizing the genre instead of what you're doing.
And also, your writer's voice is unique, and you will not speak to every reader. It won't carry to every reader. And the bad news is not everybody's going to like what you write.
Yep.
And that can be difficult to deal with it sometimes.
Get over it. If somebody likes hard-boiled thrillers they're probably not going to necessarily gravitate toward my work. They might be okay with you. They're not going to be okay with me. So yeah, I do think that that's something you just, that whole mental process, because sometimes just because my primary piece of advice always is get your butt in the chair and write, but you sometimes have those mental blocks that keep you from making that step. So I think that's pretty good advice. Well, my friend, hold up that cover again.
One more
I
time.
can't believe that there's anybody here who hasn't read one of Jayne's books. If you haven't, you can start with this one. You do not have to start with The Vanishing. You can start at any point in the series, All the Colors of the Night. It's going to be a huge book for you. I absolutely know it. It's a terrific book. And I always love when I can talk you into coming on and chatting with me.
Oh, it's so good to see you, and welcome to the West Coast again.
Yes. And good luck with your hair. See you all. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.